There's something strange happening today. You see younger men chasing attention, trying too hard, talking too much, proving too much. But then, an older man walks into the room. He says nothing. He does nothing flashy. Yet somehow, all eyes shift to him. Women notice. Men respect him. And he doesn't even try. Why? Because attraction, real attraction, is not built on looks alone. It's built on presence, discipline, and control. And the truth is, most men lose their attractiveness as they age. Not because they grow older, but because they grow weaker, mentally, emotionally, spiritually. As Marcus Aurelius once said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Yet most men give that power away. Let's be real. A lot of men hit a certain age and start feeling invisible. Less attention, less admiration, less desire. They start thinking, maybe my time has passed. So they try to compete with younger men. Dressing louder, talking louder, forcing attraction. But it backfires. Because attraction isn't loud. It's felt. As Seneca said, "He who is brave is free." And most men today are not free. They are trapped in validation, approval, and fear of being forgotten. So in this video, I'll show you how older men stay attractive to women using Stoicism and the Stoic mindset. These are not the usual tips you've heard before. These are deep, powerful shifts that change how people feel around you. Make sure you like, subscribe, comment below, and stay with me till the end. Because the last point is what separates average men from unforgettable ones. 1. He masters emotional control. An older man who stays attractive is not reactive. He doesn't get triggered easily. He doesn't chase drama. He doesn't lose himself in emotions. Because he understands something most men never learn. Every emotional reaction is a leak of power. The moment you react impulsively, you hand control over to the situation, or worse, to other people. And women can feel this instantly. They may not say it out loud, but they sense when a man is easily shaken. They test it subtly. Through silence. Through delayed replies. Through disagreement. Through unpredictability. Not always consciously, but instinctively. And in those moments, most men fail. They overthink. They double text. They try to fix the situation. They become anxious, needy, reactive. But the man who understands Stoicism, the Stoic mindset, does something different. He pauses. He observes. He chooses his response. As Epictetus taught, it's not what happens to you, but how you react to it. That means, it's not her behavior that defines you. It's not rejection that weakens you. It's not uncertainty that breaks you. It's your reaction. And once a man truly understands this, he becomes dangerous, in a good way. Because now, nothing controls him. Imagine this. A woman pulls away slightly. Most men panic. But this man? He doesn't chase. He doesn't question his worth. He doesn't spiral into insecurity. He stays grounded. And that grounded energy is felt. It communicates something powerful without words. I am in control of myself. And control is attractive. Not forced control. Not suppressed emotions. But mastered emotions. Because let's be clear. Stoicism is not about becoming cold or emotionless. It's about becoming unshakable. You still feel. You still care. But you are not ruled by what you feel. There's a difference. A weak man feels anger and explodes. A strong man feels anger and channels it. A weak man feels fear and retreats. A strong man feels fear and moves forward anyway. A weak man feels rejection and collapses internally. A strong man feels rejection and remains steady. And that steadiness creates attraction. Because in a chaotic world, calmness feels like power. Now think about this deeply. Why are older men often seen as more attractive when they carry themselves well? It's not just age. It's composure. It's the way they don't rush. The way they don't react instantly. The way they don't need to prove anything. They've learned, through experience or discipline, that reacting emotionally rarely improves anything. So they choose control instead. And here's where it becomes even more powerful. When a man masters emotional control, he becomes predictable in his character, but unpredictable in his reactions. People can trust who he is, but they can't manipulate how he responds. That creates respect. And respect is the foundation of attraction. Because attraction without respect fades. But attraction built on respect deepens. So if you want to stay attractive as you grow older, train this daily. Pause before reacting. Observe before speaking. Think before acting. Not because it looks good, but because it builds inner strength. And over time, that strength becomes presence. And that presence becomes magnetic. And if you think this is simple, wait till you see what most men get wrong next. 2. He stops seeking approval. The moment a man stops needing validation, he becomes magnetic. Not louder, not flashier, not more aggressive, just different. Because most men are constantly asking, even if silently, am I enough? Do you like me? Am I doing this right? And that energy pushes people away. Why? Because it places the other person in a position of power. The moment you seek approval, you lower your own value in the interaction. But the man who understands Stoicism, the Stoic mindset, operates from a different place. He does not seek to be liked. He seeks to be aligned with himself, his values, his standards, his purpose. And because of that, his presence feels solid. As Seneca once said, we suffer more in imagination than in reality. Most men imagine rejection before it even happens. So they adjust themselves to avoid it. They become agreeable. They become overly nice. They become performative. But in doing so, they lose authenticity. And women can sense this. Because attraction is not built on perfection. It's built on realness. And realness requires risk. The risk of not being liked. The risk of being misunderstood. The risk of standing alone. But here's the paradox. The less you need approval, the more people are drawn to you. Because now, your behavior is not calculated. It's natural. You're not trying to impress. You're expressing. And that shift changes everything. Think about the most attractive men you've seen. They don't try too hard. They're not constantly adjusting themselves to please others. They are comfortable being themselves. Even if that means not everyone likes them. And that's powerful. Because it signals something rare. Self-acceptance. And self-acceptance is contagious. When a man accepts himself fully, others feel more comfortable around him. There's no pressure. No hidden agenda. No need to perform. Just presence. Now let's go deeper. Seeking approval doesn't always look obvious. Sometimes it hides behind trying to impress with money. Trying to impress with status. Trying to impress with words. But underneath it all is the same need. Please validate me. And the moment that need disappears, a man becomes free. Free to speak honestly. Free to walk away. Free to set boundaries. Free to exist without needing constant reassurance. And that freedom is magnetic. Because most people are not free. They are controlled by opinions, controlled by expectations, controlled by fear of rejection. So when they meet someone who is free, it stands out. Now here's where it gets dangerous. Some men hear this and try to fake confidence. They act indifferent. They pretend not to care. They become emotionally distant. But that's not confidence. That's defense. Real confidence is quiet. It doesn't need to announce itself. It doesn't need to prove anything. It simply exists. It shows up in small ways. Not over-explaining yourself. Not chasing when interest isn't returned. Not shrinking to fit in. Not forcing connections. Just being grounded. And here's the truth most men avoid. Not everyone will like you. And that's not a problem. Trying to make everyone like you is the problem. Because in that process, you lose yourself. So if you want to stay attractive as you grow older, stop performing. Stop seeking validation. Stop asking for approval. Instead, build a life you respect. Develop standards you won't compromise. And show up as that man, consistently. Because when a man approves of himself, the world starts to respond differently. But here's where it gets dangerous, because most men fake confidence instead of building this next trait. 3. He builds a purpose-driven life. An attractive older man is not centered around women. He is centered around purpose. His mission. His work. His growth. And this is where most men get it completely wrong. They think attraction is something you chase. So they chase attention. They chase validation. They chase women. But the truth is, the more you chase, the less attractive you become. Because chasing signals lack. It says, I don't have enough going on, so I need you to complete me. And that energy repels. But a man who lives by Stoicism, the Stoic mindset, understands something deeper. His life must be bigger than his desires. He wakes up with direction. He moves with intention. He builds something that matters to him. And because of that, he doesn't have time to chase. He's already in motion. And here's the shift most men never make. Women are not attracted to men who are available all the time. They are attracted to men who are engaged with life. A man with purpose is not waiting around for attention. He's working. He's building. He's improving. And that creates a natural distance. A natural mystery. A natural pull. Because people value what is not easily available. Now understand this clearly. Purpose doesn't mean you have to be rich. It doesn't mean you have to be famous. It doesn't mean you have to have everything figured out. It means you are committed to something meaningful. Something that challenges you. Something that grows you. Something that gives your life direction. Because without purpose, a man drifts. He becomes reactive. He becomes distracted. He becomes dependent on external validation. But with purpose, he becomes focused. And focus is attractive. Because in a world full of distractions, a focused man stands out. Now let's go deeper. Why are older men who are truly attractive rarely desperate? Because they've built lives they don't want to escape from. They are not looking for someone to fix their life. They are looking for someone to complement it. And that changes everything. Because now, they don't tolerate low standards. They don't chase one-sided attention. They don't overinvest too early. They move with patience. Because they have something to lose. Their time, their focus, their mission. And that restraint is powerful. As Seneca said, if a man knows not to which port he sails, no wind is favorable. Most men are lost. So they attach themselves to people, hoping to find direction. But a man with purpose is already sailing. And people are naturally drawn to those who know where they're going. Now imagine this. Two men walk into a room. One is scanning the room for attention. The other is calm, grounded, not seeking anything. Why? Because his life outside that room already fulfills him. Who do you think feels more attractive? The man chasing the moment? Or the man who doesn't need it? Exactly. And here's where it becomes even more powerful. When a man is driven by purpose, his energy changes. He becomes more disciplined, more focused, more selective. He values his time. And when a man values his time, others start to value it too. Because time is life. And a man who wastes his time is unconsciously signaling that his life has no direction. But a man who protects his time is signaling that his life has meaning. Now let's be honest. Building a purpose-driven life is not easy. It requires sacrifice. It requires discipline. It requires saying no to distractions. But that's exactly what makes it attractive. Because most men won't do it. They'll choose comfort over growth. They'll choose distraction over discipline. They'll choose short-term pleasure over long-term meaning. But the man who chooses purpose becomes rare. And rarity creates attraction. So if you want to stay attractive as you grow older, don't make women the center of your life. Make your life the center of your world. And let the right people be drawn into it. And if you're getting value from this, like, subscribe, comment below, and stay with me till the end, because it only gets deeper from here. Now listen carefully, because this next one is what creates silent attraction. 4. He speaks less, says more. Older men who understand Stoicism don't talk to impress. They speak with intention. They listen more than they talk. And when they speak, people feel it. Because in a world where everyone is trying to be heard, the man who chooses silence stands out. Now think about this. Why do some men talk so much? Because they feel the need to prove themselves. They try to impress with words. They try to fill every silence. They try to control the conversation. But in doing so, they reveal insecurity. Because confidence doesn't rush to speak. Confidence waits. Confidence observes. Confidence chooses the right moment. And that's what makes it powerful. As Marcus Aurelius lived, waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. Be one. In other words, stop talking about it. Start embodying it. Because the most attractive men don't convince people with words. They show it through presence. Now let's go deeper into this. Speaking less doesn't mean being silent all the time. It means you don't speak unnecessarily. You don't speak to impress. You don't speak to fill space. You don't speak to seek validation. You speak with purpose. And when you do, people listen. Because your words carry weight. Now compare this. A man who talks constantly versus a man who speaks occasionally, but with clarity and confidence. Who commands more attention? The second. Because scarcity creates value. And this applies to words too. When your words are rare, they become more meaningful. And when your words are meaningful, they become more attractive. Now here's something even deeper. A man who listens more than he speaks understands people better. He notices things others miss. Tone, energy, subtext. And that awareness gives him an edge. Because now, he's not reacting blindly. He's responding intelligently. And that makes his presence feel different. More grounded. More intentional. More in control. And women feel this. Because being heard is rare. Most people listen to reply. Very few listen to understand. So when a man truly listens, it creates connection. Not forced. Not artificial. But natural. And that's powerful. Now let's address something important. Silence can feel uncomfortable, especially for men who are used to talking a lot. But discomfort is where growth happens. Because silence forces you to be present. It forces you to observe. It forces you to control your impulses. And over time, that control becomes natural. Now here's the hidden power of speaking less. It creates mystery. People start to wonder. What is he thinking? Why is he so calm? What does he know that others don't? And that curiosity builds attraction. Because people are drawn to what they don't fully understand. Now imagine this scenario. You're in a conversation. Everyone is talking, competing for attention. And then there's one man. Calm. Observant. Speaking only when necessary. And when he finally speaks, everyone listens. That's presence. That's power. And that's what makes him attractive. Now let's bring this back to Stoicism. Stoicism teaches restraint. Not suppression, but control. You don't say everything you think. You don't react to every impulse. You don't need to prove yourself through words. Because your life speaks for you. And that's the ultimate level. When your actions, your energy, your presence, say more than your words ever could. So if you want to stay attractive as you grow older, speak less. Listen more. And when you speak, make it count. But even this isn't enough, because attraction is also physical energy. 5. He maintains physical discipline. Stoicism is not just mindset. It's action. He trains his body. He takes care of his appearance. He respects himself enough to stay sharp. Not to impress others, but because discipline is identity. And this is where many men misunderstand attraction. They think it's all mental, all confidence, all mindset. But the truth is, your body is the first message you send before you even speak. Before you say a word. Before you show your personality. People see your posture, your energy, your grooming, your physical presence. And that first impression is powerful. Now understand this. An attractive older man doesn't try to look young. He tries to look sharp, disciplined, and put together. There's a difference. He's not chasing trends. He's not dressing like he's 21. He's not trying too hard. Instead, he looks intentional, clean, composed, strong, because he understands something deeper. How you treat your body reflects how you see yourself. If you neglect your body, you're unconsciously signaling, I don't value myself enough to take care of what I've been given. But when you maintain physical discipline, you send a different message. I respect myself. And respect is attractive. Now let's go deeper. Physical discipline is not just about appearance. It's about control. The ability to wake up and do what needs to be done, even when you don't feel like it. To train when you're tired. To eat with intention. To maintain standards consistently. And that level of discipline spills into every area of your life. Because a man who can control his body can control his habits. A man who can control his habits can control his life. And that level of control is rare. Now think about this. Most men become less disciplined as they age. They get comfortable. They let themselves go. They stop pushing themselves. And slowly, their energy drops. Their confidence drops. Their presence weakens. Not because they're getting older, but because they've stopped challenging themselves. But the man who stays attractive does the opposite. He sharpens himself. Physically, mentally, emotionally. He treats his body like an asset, not an afterthought. And here's where it becomes even more powerful. Physical discipline builds silent confidence. Not loud confidence. Not performative confidence. But the kind that doesn't need validation. Because when you know you've put in the work, you carry yourself differently. You stand taller. You move with intention. You don't seek approval, because you've earned your self-respect. And people feel that. Now let's be clear. This is not about perfection. You don't need the perfect body. You don't need extreme aesthetics. What matters is effort and consistency. Because effort signals discipline. And discipline signals strength. And strength is attractive. Now let's talk about something most men ignore. Energy. A disciplined body produces better energy. You move better. You feel better. You think clearer. And that energy is contagious. People are drawn to it. Because energy cannot be faked. You can fake words. You can fake confidence for a moment. But you cannot fake sustained physical energy. And that's what separates men. Now imagine this. Two older men enter a room. One looks tired. Slouched. Unkempt. The other looks sharp, upright, alert. Before they even speak, you already feel the difference. And so does everyone else. That's the power of physical discipline. Now here's the deeper truth. Maintaining your body is not about vanity. It's about standards. The standard you hold for yourself. The standard you refuse to drop. Because once you start lowering your standards, it doesn't stop at your body. It spreads to your work, to your mindset, to your relationships. But when you maintain high standards physically, you reinforce discipline everywhere else. Now let's bring this back to Stoicism. Stoicism teaches self-mastery. Not comfort. Not indulgence. Not excuses. Self-mastery. And your body is one of the clearest places to practice it. Because every day, you're faced with choices. Discipline or comfort. Effort or ease. Growth or stagnation. And every time you choose discipline, you strengthen your identity. You become the kind of man who does what needs to be done. And that identity is attractive. Because it's rare. So if you want to stay attractive as you grow older, don't neglect your body. Train it. Respect it. Maintain it. Not for others, but for yourself. Because when a man respects himself, the world responds differently. And here's something most men ignore, that instantly lowers their attractiveness. 6. He is comfortable with silence. Silence is power. Weak men rush to fill silence. Strong men own it. An older man who stays attractive can sit in silence without discomfort. And that creates mystery, presence, tension. Now let's go deeper into this. Silence makes most people uncomfortable. Why? Because in silence, there are no distractions, no noise, no performance, no escape, just presence. And many people are not comfortable with that. So they talk, they joke, they ramble, they fill every gap with words. Not because they have something important to say, but because they are trying to escape the discomfort of silence. But the man who understands Stoicism, the Stoic mindset, does the opposite. He embraces silence. He sits in it. He owns it. He becomes comfortable with it. And that changes everything. Because silence reveals inner stability. If you can sit in silence without anxiety, without rushing to speak, without needing to impress, it shows that you are grounded. And grounded men are rare. Now think about this. In a conversation, when there's a pause, most people panic. They feel the need to say something, anything. But the man who is comfortable with silence doesn't rush. He lets the moment breathe. And that creates a different kind of energy. A slower, deeper, more intentional presence. And people feel it. Now here's where it becomes powerful. Silence creates tension. Not awkward tension, but attractive tension. The kind that makes people lean in. The kind that creates curiosity. The kind that makes your presence felt, without effort. Because when you're not constantly talking, people start paying more attention to you. Your movements. Your expressions. Your energy. And that attention builds attraction. Now let's go even deeper. Silence is also a sign of confidence. Because when you're confident, you don't feel the need to prove yourself through words. You don't need constant validation. You don't need to dominate conversations. You're comfortable just being. And that level of comfort is powerful. Because most people are not comfortable being alone with themselves. They need noise. They need distraction. They need stimulation. But a man who can sit in silence is a man who has mastered himself. Now imagine this. You're sitting with someone. There's a pause in the conversation. Instead of rushing to fill it, you stay calm. You maintain eye contact. You remain present. That moment becomes charged. Because silence, when owned, creates connection. Not forced, but natural. Now here's something most men don't realize. Silence also gives you control. When you speak less, you observe more. You notice details others miss. You understand people better. And that awareness gives you an advantage. Because now, you're not reacting blindly. You're responding intentionally. And that makes your words more impactful. Because you're not speaking out of impulse. You're speaking out of awareness. Now let's address something important. Being comfortable with silence does not mean being socially awkward. It doesn't mean avoiding conversation. It means you are not dependent on conversation. There's a difference. You can speak when needed. You can engage when necessary. But you don't rely on words to carry your presence. Your presence stands on its own. Now here's the deeper layer. Silence forces you to confront yourself. Your thoughts. Your emotions. Your insecurities. And that's why most people avoid it. But the man who embraces silence becomes stronger internally. Because he is no longer running from himself. He understands himself. And that self-awareness is attractive. Because it creates authenticity. Now imagine a man who is always talking. Versus a man who is calm, observant, and speaks only when necessary. Who feels more powerful? Exactly. Because power is not loud. Power is controlled. Power is intentional. Power is present. And silence is one of its strongest expressions. So if you want to stay attractive as you grow older, learn to be comfortable with silence. Don't rush to fill every moment. Don't speak just to be heard. Let your presence do the work. Because when a man masters silence, he becomes unforgettable. Now this next point might challenge your entire mindset. 7. He detaches from outcomes. He doesn't chase results. Not attention. Not approval. Not even attraction. And paradoxically, that's what makes him attractive. Because he is not needy. Now this is one of the hardest lessons for most men to understand. Because everything in modern culture teaches the opposite. Chase success. Chase validation. Chase results. Get the number. Get the attention. Get the outcome. But the man who understands Stoicism, the Stoic mindset, operates differently. He focuses on what he can control. His actions. His effort. His behavior. And he lets go of what he cannot control. Other people's reactions. Other people's feelings. Other people's decisions. As Epictetus taught, make the best use of what is in your power, and take the rest as it happens. That's detachment. Not indifference. Not apathy. But freedom from needing a specific result. Now let's go deeper. Why is this so attractive? Because neediness repels. The moment you need something from someone, your behavior changes. You become cautious. You become overly agreeable. You become less authentic. You start performing instead of being. And people feel that. Especially women. Because attraction is emotional. It's not just what you say. It's what you signal. And neediness signals. I need something from you to feel complete. But detachment signals. I am already complete. And that difference is everything. Now imagine this. A man approaches a woman. But internally he's thinking, I hope this goes well. I need her to like me. Versus a man who thinks, I'll express myself honestly, and whatever happens, happens. Same situation. Completely different energy. The first feels pressured. The second feels free. And freedom is attractive. Now here's the deeper truth. When you detach from outcomes, you become more present. Because you're no longer stuck in your head, worrying about what might happen. You're engaged in the moment. You listen better. You respond naturally. You move with ease. And that presence creates connection. Now let's go even deeper. Detachment gives you emotional stability. Because now, your mood is not controlled by results. If things go well, you stay grounded. If things don't, you stay grounded. You don't swing emotionally. You remain steady. And that steadiness is rare. Because most people are reactive to outcomes. Good outcome equals high emotions. Bad outcome equals low emotions. But the man who is detached is not controlled by external events. And that makes him powerful. Now let's address something important. Detachment does not mean you don't care. It means you care about your actions, not the outcome. You show up fully. You give your best. You act with intention. But you don't cling to results. Because you understand. You cannot control everything. And that understanding creates peace. Now here's where it becomes even more powerful. When a man is detached, he becomes selective. He doesn't chase every opportunity. He doesn't pursue every person. He doesn't settle for less. Because he doesn't need anything. He chooses. And choice is attractive. Because most people operate from need. They tolerate things they shouldn't. They chase things that don't serve them. They compromise their standards. But the man who is detached walks away when necessary. And that ability to walk away is one of the strongest signals of self-respect. Now imagine this. A man who stays calm even when things don't go his way. Who doesn't chase. Who doesn't beg. Who doesn't lose himself trying to control outcomes. What does that communicate? Strength. Control. Confidence. And that combination is magnetic. Now here's the paradox most men struggle with. The moment you stop chasing something, you often attract it. Because now, you're not forcing. You're allowing. You're not desperate. You're grounded. And that shift changes how people respond to you. So if you want to stay attractive as you grow older, let go of the need to control outcomes. Focus on your actions. Focus on your growth. Focus on your standards. And let everything else unfold. If this is opening your eyes, like, subscribe, comment below and stay with me till the end, because the final point will change how you see yourself completely. And now, the most powerful trait of all. 8. He becomes unshakable. Life hits everyone. But an attractive older man does not break easily. He adapts. He endures. He grows stronger. Because he understands something most men avoid. Hardship is not the enemy. It's the training ground. As Seneca said, difficulties strengthen the mind, as labor does the body. Now let's go deeper. Every man faces challenges. Rejection. Failure. Loss. Uncertainty. But what separates men is how they respond. A weak man is broken by difficulty. A strong man is built by it. And the man who becomes truly attractive over time is the one who becomes unshakable. Not because life is easy for him, but because he has trained himself to handle it. Now understand this. Being unshakable does not mean you don't feel pain. It means pain does not control you. You feel it. You process it. But you don't collapse under it. And that emotional resilience is incredibly attractive. Because in a world full of instability, people are drawn to stability. Now think about this. Why do people respect certain men instantly? Not because they've never struggled, but because you can tell they've been through something and came out stronger. It's in their eyes, their posture, their presence. There's a quiet strength about them. And that strength comes from endurance. Now let's go deeper into this. An unshakable man does not depend on perfect conditions. He doesn't need everything to go his way to feel okay. He creates his own stability internally. And that's powerful. Because most people depend on external stability. They need things to go right, to feel right. But when things go wrong, they collapse. But the man who is unshakable Remain steady. Even in chaos. Now imagine this. Something goes wrong. Plans fail. Expectations are broken. Most men react emotionally. Frustration. Anger. Panic. But this man? He pauses. He assesses. He adapts. He moves forward. No drama. No overreaction. Just control. And that level of control commands respect. Now here's the deeper layer. Becoming unshakable is a result of repeated exposure to difficulty. You don't build it overnight. You build it through facing challenges, handling pressure, enduring discomfort. And every time you do, you become stronger, more resilient, more grounded, more stable. And over time, you reach a point where very little can disturb you. Now let's connect this to attraction. Women are naturally drawn to strength. Not just physical strength, but emotional strength. The ability to handle life. The ability to stay grounded under pressure. The ability to remain calm in chaos. Because that kind of man feels safe. Not boring safe, but stable safe. The kind of safety that allows attraction to grow. Now here's something most men overlook. Instability is unattractive. Constant mood swings. Emotional reactions. Lack of control. It creates uncertainty. But stability creates trust. And trust deepens attraction. Now let's go even deeper. An unshakable man is not easily influenced. He doesn't fold under pressure. He doesn't change who he is to fit in. He doesn't lose himself in difficult moments. He remains himself. And that consistency builds identity. Because at the end of the day, attraction is not just about how you look. It's about who you are under pressure. Anyone can appear confident when things are easy. But real strength shows when things are hard. And the man who remains grounded in those moments becomes unforgettable. Now imagine this. A man who faces rejection and stays composed. A man who faces failure and keeps moving. A man who faces difficulty and grows stronger. What does that communicate? Power, resilience, masculine stability. And that combination is rare. So if you want to stay attractive as you grow older, stop avoiding difficulty. Embrace it. Use it. Grow from it. Because every challenge you overcome builds the man you are becoming. And over time, you become someone who cannot be shaken. And that is the ultimate level of attraction. Finally, attraction fades for most men. But for some, it deepens with age. Not because they're lucky, but because they choose Stoicism. The Stoic mindset transforms a man into someone rare. Calm, grounded, focused, unshaken. While others chase attention, he becomes the man attention follows. Because attraction isn't something you chase. It's something you become. You build it through discipline, through control, through consistency. So if you want to stay attractive as you grow older, don't chase youth. Don't compete for validation. Build strength, so life can't break you. Build discipline, so you trust yourself. Build presence, so people feel you without words. Because when a man becomes solid within, everything outside begins to change. Respect grows. Attention follows. Opportunities open. And remember, as Marcus Aurelius said, the soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts. So choose strength. Choose control. Choose growth. Because every decision you make is shaping the man you become. If this spoke to you, like this video, share it, and comment below. Will you actually put this into work? And tell me, what topic should I cover next? Stay disciplined. I'll see you in the next one.